Final piece of content for the 2025 Western States 100. It is our recap episode. This is a little bit of a special episode because I'm joined by Mike McMonagle, Leah Yingling, Brett Hornig, myself. We all consumed the race at different capacities. I know, for example, I have to go back and watch large parts of the live stream because we're out crewing, pacing, doing other things, moving studios. So a lot to catch up on, but we figured we would kind of do a round table sharing of highlights. I think my highlight is actually just a piece of gratitude for everyone here. Brent, who's been working the live stream, Brett and Leah, co-commentators, Mike sort of being a hybrid commentator, photographer. Noah Reese was out in the field yesterday. My wife, Jules Campanelli, who has been orchestrating so much behind the scenes. I think we had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun this past week, and I know we could not have done it in the way we did without the team that kind of rallied around it. So I think I lead just with gratitude for all y'all, and I know we all kind of shared some possible fun ideas for next year and beyond, but I'm hoping that this becomes an even deeper tradition and we keep it light. So yeah, I'm leading with gratitude. Mike, what's your first take from the week? From the week that was?
I can't believe that before you started, or I guess when you started this podcast, whole business and everything else that Single Track has become, but at the time when it was just a podcast business that you started, I don't think we really knew each other quite yet, or we were loosely knew each other.
Well. You hated me. You hated me from afar. You hated me from afar.
Yeah,
and now he hates you from up close.
Now he hates me from up close.
I hate you now from right here.
I really disdained your work.
But no, to pile on to maybe your feelings of gratitude, I didn't really like what you were doing back then. I thought it was unnecessary, and I thought you doing it was unnecessary.
Where is this going?
Wrong person at the wrong time.
Where am I going with this? I'm just kidding. I know where I'm going with it. So, dude, to have actually then gotten to know you, though, that was before I knew you, and then getting to know you over the years after that and since then, and so greatly appreciating what it is you're doing and what you're building and seeing what a builder you are and Jules is. And then to see that all culminate in the past week in Olympic Valley and now in Auburn, it's a remarkable contribution to the sport, and it's a privilege to be a part of it in a small way. So very happy to support and grateful to be able to support. And I don't hate you anymore.
Always loved you.
So that's my impression of Western States 2025. Yeah.
Okay, race itself too.
Race itself.
Like if someone was to put you on the spot and be like first impression, like what was buzzing in your mind, last night at 11 p.m. leaving the track?
Yeah.
Leaving the track at 1:30 a.m.
Whatever it is. I think I've said this a couple times. I'd never thought after the last 2 years that 16 hours would be in the top 10 at Western States in the men's race ever again. And I wasn't sure that 17 to 17:15 would ever be in the top 10 in the women's race ever again. I think I was really struck by how this year seemed to be by far the most, there was by far more athletic investment in the Western States this year from the professional and elite field than we've ever seen before, which I think you could probably say just about every single year, but it felt like an increasing slope, and just the amount of investment and energy that the professional and elite field was putting into Western States this year, it felt like it had skyrocketed. And I think I was just struck by the fact that the way that played out was some really fast winning times, some really fast podiums, but a bit of a strung out field behind that. And I don't know. That was I think the biggest surprise to me. I was really excited going into Western States this year. I thought we had accounted for every single possible person who could win or podium or what time might be run. So I was really excited to see there's probably still gonna be something that surprises me, and that's what it was for example, the gap between was it sixth and seventh, I think, in the men's race.
Yeah.
We were waiting. It was
almost an hour.
Yeah. So yeah, I was surprised how spread out it became.
Was the depth not deep?
Or maybe the depth just presents itself in a different way in this modern age.
Courtney Olson, can you make a shirt that says that? The depth presents itself differently in this modern age.
That doesn't quite have the same ring.
It doesn't. I think for me, I would say Carnage came back this year, and DNFs are very much here to stay. I think I was very shocked by the number of DNFs initially only in the women's field. Early, yeah. So I think notable elite DNFs were like Esther Chilog, Rosanna Bouchard, Heather Jackson, Tara Dower, Riley Brady. Those are probably kind of the main. Martina. Oh, yeah, Martina Winarchik, who was an early leader of the race, actually, through nearly Michigan Bluff. So that was flying. She is so fast. So that was, I think I just listed 6 people. Normally, I like to brag that, women race a bit smarter. We don't see as much carnage or DNFs on their side as the men. But I don't even know if that was necessarily the case, that people were flying too close to the sun this year. But then we didn't see a lot of men DNFs in the elite field for a while. But then as the race went on, we started to see those stack up. So I think people like Rod Farvard, Vincent Bouliard, David Roach, I think those were a few of the kind of like headliner DNFs on that side.
Yeah, DNFs, and then some classic blow-ups like Adam Peterman. Adam Peterman exploded, but still finished. But, I think he was 23-0.
Yeah.
Which was unique. I don't think Adam's ever had a race like that yet.
No. Yeah, so I think that, like Mike had mentioned, each year that I've raced Western States, my top 10 finishing time has gotten increasingly faster, but my place has gotten worse. I expected that to happen this year, and that would not have been the case.
I have a couple takeaways. The one that I'll share up front is a little surprised or confused about Kilian's race, because finishes podium and, runs 14:19, which is significantly faster, over an hour faster, I think, or close to it, from his winning time here in 2011. So, huge step function forward. But, and maybe this is just the way he races. In some cases, he gets to the finish line and he's, by far one of the most fresh people on the track. And today at award ceremony, he's just kind of hopping around and jovial, good spirits. Looks kind of like he never even ran 100 miles yesterday.
Yeah, it almost...
did he leave a lot out there? I'm just so curious to know, what happened with his race.
Yeah, I'm a little curious because listening to his on the track interview, the post-race with Dylan and Corinne, it almost sounded like the way that he was approaching this race was finally the culmination of all of this scientific training that he has just been wanting to test out for Western. He's Western States is so different than it was back when I last ran it. I get to try this and this and this, and now I get to see how well the training worked. And that's, of course Kilian's a great athlete, but is that a strong enough why to win the race?
That's a really good point.
Because he definitely ran hard enough to see whether his training worked or not.
Definitely.
But I'm not sure if maybe at this point in his career the motivation to absolutely bury yourself to win is going to be there for every race. I don't know.
And then the other takeaway, or one of them, is I do see a world where the men's podium is not here next year. So it's an even more wide open race. It'll be curious to see, who comes through the Golden Ticket Series to be here in 2026. But I can see a world where Caleb Olson's not back. I can see a world where Chris Myers is not back, and definitely Kilian not being back.
Yeah, and I think the opposite could be said for the women's field. In all the finish line interviews, Marianne Hogan, Fuzhou Zhang, they were almost immediate, yes, I'll be back. Curious about Abby Hall. I feel like it's kind of nice to walk away while you're on top.
Yeah.
It was interesting to hear her say, though, there's still a few things that she's like curious about with this course. Is just like, do you feel like the job here is like completely done?
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know. There's still some things.
Yeah, and I think kind of paralleling to my thought process around top 10 achievement was the women's top 10 this year was largely international, like probably one of the most international top 10s we've ever had at Western States. I think in terms of Americans, only Keely Henninger, Hannah Allgood, and Abby Hall are from the U.S. Everybody else resides internationally. Well, Emily Hoggood is kind of this, hybrid North American, but she's from Zimbabwe. But something that's interesting is I think when I look at this list, there's a lot of veterans, but also a lot of newcomers, and I could see nearly everybody on this list, except for maybe Hannah Allgood. I think she was like, I'm kind of one and done here.
Really?
Returning. Yes, but, people change their minds. So I think there was a few of these who probably would like to see how they perform in their debut 100, their debut Western States, have a good enough day, and then have a great day on their return year if they executed a top 10 finish.
The one last one I'll add from me is, echoing some of the sentiments here. I know that the sport has been on a rocket ship in terms of performance innovation, and I did think heading into this race, it was the most prepared field we've ever seen, both on the men's and women's sides, like ready for like heat training, nutrition, pacing, etc., like kind of ready for anything. And despite that, it felt like sort of a pause year to me in terms of breakthrough. Obviously, great performances at the top. Caleb Olson, Abby Hall, running historically really impressive times. But I think, like, again, cumulatively, looking for like a cumulative step forward, it felt like a pause year to me. So
that's how you view like a breakthrough for the professional side of the sport, is if like there has to be more than just one person.
Yeah, it's less so one person having this standout generational performance, and it's more so like how is like the entire cohort doing. And I think year over year we were seeing like cohort level growth in the sport, and it didn't seem that coherent to me this year.
One thing that I do think was significantly different this year than any of the other years that I've really been at for this race is on the men's and women's side, the amount of people that genuinely fully 100% believed they could win the race.
And that leads to just like a really messy top 10.
I think that totally screws up the top 10 is because, there was a lot of win or bust out there.
Yeah. And do you think that's here to stay?
I think it's going to depend on the year. Even, like Caleb got scary close to Jim's course record. I guess for anyone watching, like, that's not a mannequin. That actually is the real Caleb Olson, just still sitting on the couch. Anyways, like he got, even though he got scary close to Jim's record, I think if Jim, like even next year, if Jim is in the race, I think the like dynamic kind of reverts straight back to like an old-fashioned. It's Jim will be the one to decide when to push, when not. And then it'll just go back to like, I think I can hang with Jim as long as possible. But if it's not Jim in the race, I think it could be another one of those like everyone could win the race type scenarios.
I don't know if we would expect this or not, but like the podiums were really tight, right? Like the men's podium was 8 minutes and the women's podium was 13-ish. That's a really tight and fast podium.
That's like racing.
Yeah. And so one interesting thought is that there isn't like a new, like Caleb and Abby, when they line up for whatever race they do next, that people aren't going to be thinking like this person's unbeatable, like there wasn't like a runaway victory here at Western States. And like to your point about there being a lot of people who thought they could win Western States this year, like I don't know, it's just an interesting reflection that we didn't necessarily crown any new like unbeatable people,
world beaters. Yeah.
Do you think if it's like
that's going to inspire Caleb right there?
Do you think if it's not a course record, then you have to like win the race multiple times? Because like if Caleb goes and wins Western States 3 times, but none of them are course record, I would then
I would start to suspect, like, yeah, this guy just knows how to win. And
yeah,
like,
I would think like, oh, this guy's hard to beat because he's just simply can win. Or you could do like one Western States, break the course record, and then it's like, okay, well now anything you do, is it like I would have similar thoughts about that person.
Depends on if you like come out of nowhere and do it, or if you, yeah. I mean, I think if you have a resume of really, really strong results and that build to like a, the course record.
Oh yeah, that was a question. Like, how many years? And you just have to throw out the number for the men's or women's side. How many more years until an unsponsored runner wins Western States again?
It's not going to happen.
Okay.
I don't think.
That's always a fun thing that I think we talk about after Western States each year is like who was
not even unsponsored, but like not like professional.
Yeah. I don't
It's a great
know
question.
if that'll ever happen again. Yeah.
Who was the last? Kat Bradley?
No, she's sponsored by Solomon.
Yeah, she was Solomon.
Was she Solomon heading in?
Mm-hmm.
I guess where I was going.
Like one of the like, was Andrew Miller Solomon too at the time?
Oh,
yeah.
He might have been unsponsored.
That'll be a good one to check. But so it was quite some time ago.
Yeah.
It was like 16. 17. Well, Ryan Sands won in 2017. Andrew Miller was 2016. I guess where I was going with that was one of my big takeaways was that in order to win this race, not only do you have to be able to like probably be a full professional in the sport, you kind of have to have that professional athlete gene now. Like, Finn, you've always said that like ultra running rewards hard work the most as a sport, and I believe you, but I don't think that's good enough now to win Western States, where like running I did the follow cam up the escarpment with the lead men's pack, and just the effort at which they were like, I guess the effortlessness that they were going up the escarpment, and I was just completely going 100% all out just to keep up with them when they were 3 miles into a 100-mile race, was just getting to see like firsthand an entirely different class of athlete. And there was a lead pack of 18 men doing that.
So genetics. The next era is just genetics.
I always say, what else is like hard work beats talent, something like that.
Talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah, but then like when you're talented and you work that hard, you're gonna beat the average person who also works hard.
I think something I appreciated in the race this year was on the men's side in particular, I would say, maybe less so on the women's side, was just average, good volume was enough to get some of the top finishers on the podium, for example. Like, I think
From
both
a training standpoint.
Like, I think both Caleb and Chris Myers showcase that you can do. I know 100 miles a week is quite significant, especially when there's a lot of like vertical climbing and elevation in it. But I think often with some of this higher volume training that we see other athletes have of like 140, 150, 130 mile weeks, you almost start to believe that that is what is necessary to have success, and it almost seems unattainable. I think seeing people like Caleb and Chris Myers, who tended to peak around more of that like 90, 80 to 100 mile weeks, seems a bit more tangible, especially for athletes who might not be on that full bought in like professional approach to ultra and trail running, because both Caleb and Chris hold down full-time jobs as well.
I think Chris actually recently queued his J.
Oh, he queued the J?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Brett, what was your take on this year's live stream? Improvements?
I mean, I still need to go back and watch it, but there was more hands on deck than ever before out on course. Like, there was more cameras on the trail than ever before. I think there was more drones in the air than ever before. There was more organization with the commentating than ever before. You know, last year there was a bit of a little mishap with, you know, the M1, 2, 3 thing coming in, and they learned from that. They had various plans in place to make sure that that didn't happen again, and those are all good things, and just adding to the coverage is I think there's still a ton more coverage that can be added to the race, but that's largely tech limited. Like, I was follow cam from Forest Hill to Cal 2. There's no one to replace me to go from Cal 2 to the river, because even the best like Terrex packs in the world, no service. They can't get a cell signal out after Cal 2, so there's no point in even trying to get someone down there.
I've got two other like things that I thought were fun or cool. First one, at the award ceremony today, they announced a new sponsor for Western States, the Man Against Horse race. And I thought it was pretty cool that, and to back up, every partner at Western States, I believe, is able to give a race entry into the next year's event. And Man Against Horse is
going to put a horse in the race?
Sorry?
Are they going to put a horse into next year's race?
That would be cool. But equally cool, they are giving their entry to the first person who missed the cutoff, the 30-hour cutoff at Western States.
Nice.
So there was a person who finished, I think, with like 1 or 2 minutes over the 30-hour cutoff in golden hour, and I think it's a guy. He will be returning to Western States next year because of Man Against Horse.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool.
Super cool. I was talking to someone in this room about this earlier today. That'll be a mystery. Does this encourage being the first person to miss the cutoff, knowing that there's an entry on the line?
Who's to say they would do it again, though?
That's yeah. That's like was this a one-time thing, or is this an every year sort of thing?
Yeah,
'Cause
that's
if
a
so,
great. I
I'm
like the way your brain works, but
I'm like, whoa, dude! Like,
I bet they'll find other creative ways to contribute that
Yeah.
entry to the community over the years.
totally. Because like going even further down this, like that's a very interestingly tactical race.
You just have a bunch of people.
But like you can't cross before 30 hours or else you lose. But then you have to beat everyone else after the 30-hour mark. Like it's a very tricky race.
So just you have a bunch of people just standing on the track at the 300-meter mark.
Or maybe
And
even
then
right
as
at
soon
the
as
finish. And then you have to like lean at 30 hours.
Yeah, so is the fame and notoriety and just general achievement of nailing like a very late stage golden hour finish more or less appealing than missing it and just coming back again next year?
Yeah.
There should be a rule that like you're not allowed to stand still if you're on track to run under 30 hours. Like there's no standing on the track.
So now there's like whole race officials for this one.
It's like a contest for how slow you can move.
But like you have to be moving your foot. Like what is it in basketball? Like a 3-second violation.
Yeah,
You're like,
exactly.
like-
Yeah, shot clock violation.
Yeah,
all that
shot
kind of
clock
stuff.
violation. Like if you're not moving your feet for a certain amount of time, like shot clock violation.
Yeah.
You have to go back 3 paces.
Nice. A question for you guys is, who had the most surprising performance on the day, and who were you most surprised to see DNF? We could do men and women's if
Yeah.
you'd like. That's kind of fun.
My biggest surprise on the women's side was Abby Hall's win. That was just so much more monumentally better of a performance than her previous 2 ultras this season. So that was on the women's DNF side. I would say Esther Chilog was probably the surprise DNF for me, which that was injury related. I think she fell.
I think so.
Or rolled an ankle and like jacked up her hip on the other side. So it was just unfortunate, perhaps just bad luck. Men's side for me, it was Chris Myers. I think I put him in 5th.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe like 14:30 was going to be about the spot where he would be on his best day, but then not only to run the time that he did, but to be like pushing and like pressing to race that way. That was a big surprise for me.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest surprise for me on the men's side was Chris Myers taking a snorkel across the Kentucky River.
Was not expecting that.
Yeah,
was not expecting that. That was a nice little surprise in the heat of the moment, in the heat of battle. He has the presence of mind to inject humor into the situation, bring that prop. And I was wondering how long he'd have to carry it for, but then I realized that the Green Gate Aid Station is right there, so not too far.
But he had to carry it like a mile.
I think
like
so.
Well, I think somebody said there's drop
is-
bags are down at the river. Or are they down
they are?
up?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a drop bag down at the river,
okay,
so maybe
so-
he actually didn't have to carry it at all.
And then biggest surprise in the women's field, Riley Brady. I thought they were going to run away with the victory here. I thought that this was going to be a moment for them, and I guess the day sort of fell apart early, and I hope they're back because I think they have all the talent in the world, and I genuinely thought that they were going to be contending for a course record today, or yesterday. So, surprise for me.
Yeah, if it was today, it wouldn't be a course record. I think I agree with that for the women's race. I did think that I thought Riley would win for sure. I thought they were a favorite. But that's just ultra running, man, and it just sucks sometimes. Like you said, I mean, I don't know what went wrong specifically with Riley's race, but it seemed like things weren't right pretty early on, right? Like definitely well before Robinson Flat. And so that was a pretty big surprise or shock, I think, to hear that Riley was maybe falling back out of the top 15, top 20 already by Duncan Canyon or somewhere around there. So yeah, that was a surprise, but that's just ultra running just sucks sometimes, man. Like you can be as ready as anybody or more, and sometimes you just don't get the cards on a day.
Yeah, there's a luck element for sure.
Yeah. I was also a little bit surprised by Abby Hall's win. I didn't know to expect that. I think I put Abby in like 10th in Fantasy Free Trail, and I just didn't know to expect that monumental of a race, both in terms of execution, finishing time. Yeah. Men's side, I think we like to talk about this each year after Western States, is like who's the top placing non-competitive entry to Western States. And I did not, correct me if I'm wrong, Hiroki Kai.
He was a golden ticket.
He was a golden ticket?
Atara, where?
Well, never mind then.
It's okay.
I didn't know to expect Hiroki Kai in the top 10 at all.
I didn't, regardless, that he got a golden ticket at Tarwar, because it was like some spots rolled down. I feel like Leah's fact checking.
No, not your fact. I'm just
but like
another fact.
that's fair. But like the time differential between, I think it was Dan Jones and then Hiroki's time at Tarwar was like pretty significant. I was
Sure.
like, well, I don't know if that'll be top 10. Caleb, were you watching the live stream?
You've been talking about how good the live stream was, so I wanted to see your section that you filmed on Cal Street.
How did I do?
So far, it looks pretty good. It's, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. It's a lot of branches.
So Dan Green on the men's side was the highest placing lottery person, and then Lauren Newman, who finished behind Dan Green, was the next lottery spot. And then on the women's side, Paige Borges in a 2046 was 15th place and got 13th is race admin. I guess race admin, that probably counts. Yeah, Eileen Biscaja, 2001, in 13th place. So that's pretty cool. And I guess for my surprises on the day, I would have to say, I feel like I didn't put as much respect on Abby Hall's name coming into the race. I know she's such a competitor, and I think I should have thought that one more through when it came to like competing at the front against Fu Zhao, Marianne, people who I think race pretty similarly to how she does. Ida Nielsen is a fighter, and my gosh, just like seeing the stages of Ida Nielsen out there throughout the day, from leading the race to getting swooped up at Pointed Rocks, losing the podium position, and just the status at which her body is in when she crosses the finish line. She's guts it out. So I think those top 4 women that we saw are just all these fierce competitors, and 100% should have expected Abby to be at the front of this race, and was not talking about it probably as much as we should have been. And I'd say, I align on the Chris Myers note as well. I think he fits into that bill as well. Something that Anthony Costales had brought up before the race, and he said it would be a fun pre-race preview conversation, which we did not do, was like what race, for which person would a win at Western States give them a ton of confidence and almost change their life in a pretty
Yeah.
significant way post-race. And I almost feel like the way the race results shook out on both the men's and the women's side are the answer I probably would have given to that question.
I think they seem like pretty validating wins.
Totally.
Dang, I had a thought.
Well, I'll just to add on to the surprise conversational track here. We, using Caleb as the example, we have known, especially in the last 1 to 2 years, that a day like yesterday would inevitably come. I don't know if it was going to come at UTMB or Western or some other Cocodona, some big stage race, but it was going to come. And we just we have the privilege of watching him train. Like we see what he's doing, and so it's not a surprise to us. And we just don't have that much information elsewhere in the community at our disposal to really know where things come. Even when you know names like Abby Hall and Chris Myers in Boulder, like at the end of the day, like texting with people to get intel, watching Strava, like that can only go so far.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, for example, seeing Caleb rip a workout on Draper Alpine Road, like that's what you need to see. At least that's what I need to see. And
watching Caleb make me drool on a climb
Yeah.
West Granger or something.
yeah, so like I also just think we're all probably going to, as long as we're in media, given what we have to know the sport, we're going to constantly be surprised. There's always going to be people that, you know, you put respect on after the fact. And yeah, like Abby Hall, that was her yesterday. Chris Myers, Hiroki Kai.
I think Martina Monarchik too. She was a really cool one. That after our preview episode, I did a women's preview on the Trail Network podcast, and we dug into her background quite a bit more. And I just remember thinking, like, dang, she's going to be at the front of this race. And we saw her leading the charge at the front of the race for a significant amount of time until I think the heat overtook her pretty decently. So I would love to see her race her way back into Western States and spend some time over here, dial in the heat mitigation strategies, because I think she is an absolute weapon on a fast course like Western States.
Remember what I was going to say about Abby Hall. It's still, I think, relevant. I think that one of the, maybe spots where we should have maybe pushed Abby a little bit higher in the prediction was the team that she runs for and the success that they've had recently at Western States, like the team that she has in her corner, being able to pick the brains of like
Dan Jones,
Ruth Croft, Tom Evans, Emily Hogg. Adidas Terrex was the most dominant team at Western States yesterday. Like of the men's and women's top 10s, like of the
and
20.
all good.
Yeah, of the 20, they had 5 of those spots. And 5 is a pretty significant number. I mean, as Jim likes to put it in terms of like wins and stuff, like 5, you're one of the greats. So it's like that was a very, very successful Western States for Adidas Terrex, and something that like that's not new in the last few years.
Is Emily Hoggood, by the way, on her way to like 10 top 10s?
5 right now.
Yeah, like is she on her way to like maybe be the last person ever?
She'll get there, and she's 29, I think, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not sure her age, but like she is so consistent and so steady and so strong, and she has Western States really figured out. If she wants to, if she chooses to continue to pursue Western States, that's going to be really fun to continue to watch. I would also love to see her, if she wants to take her strengths elsewhere. But
it seems like running Western States every year hasn't even like made her like any worse later on in the season. Like she's been so good at the double.
yeah.
It's like Western State, like go focus on Western States and then go crush UTMB like you usually do.
All right, let's do parting thoughts. Anything you want to leave the audience with? Yeah. You go first.
do you have one?
Do I have one? I mean, I don't know if I said it in this one or in our failed recording, but just gratitude. I'm just so grateful for the team that was here this week at the single track houses and on the ground making things possible. And if there's one wish that I have for the people watching and listening is if you want to find a way to support what we're doing this week, do me a favor and go follow Conversational Pace on YouTube. Go follow Trail Network. Go follow Shit in the Woods. If if you could, go follow Caleb Wilson 123.
Caleb Wilson 123.
1, 2, 3 at the
1,
end.
2, 3.
Very,
1, 2,
very
3 are
active
the
on
last
Don't
Instagram.
forget
digits.
the 1, 2, 3.
Go follow
It's
Caleb
very
Wilson 1, 2, 3.
important.
Go follow Brenton Douglas. Call home. Like everything that's going on there. Like Brenton's been doing the live stream for us all week. It's been great. Yeah, support the team that made this all possible. And I'm still excited about this race. I still am intrigued and want to come back and cover it next year and keep the tradition going. And we have some tricks and surprises and fun stuff up our sleeve, I think, to make next year the same but also different.
We have some fun ideas. I hope at least some of them come to fruition in some way.
I don't think my stoke for the race hasn't shrunk at all, but my stoke for just like where each of us will be in life next year when we get to come and hang out and like live together for a week. Yeah. It's just going to be like even more fun. It'll be chaos, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Parting thought?
Oh.
Party thought?
No. I agree with that. I think we said this last week felt like Christmas, and we might just make next year even feel like Christmas as we add another little one to the bunch. Yeah. So what a great week. It was really exciting to participate from this perspective after racing for the last 3 years. Mike has tried to shed light on what the experience of a crew member, media member is like during race day, and you don't know until you experience it yourself. And I think I experienced it myself quite a bit yesterday. And yeah, just really, really cool to partake in one of our best friends winning the whole damn thing. Really cool.
Once again, it's Caleb Wilson 1, 2, 3.
I have a parting thought that I almost forgot that I was thinking. There were a lot of new rules this year at Western States for media and for crew, basically for everyone around the race who wanted to be a part of it in some way. There was a lot of new rules, a lot of new structure, and that's obviously a reflection of the enormous growth of the sport as reflected in Western States. And some of it was a surprise to me. Like, for example, I don't know, at Michigan Bluff, normally I like to go down the trail before the runners come in from the top of the climb to El Dorado. I like to go down there and get some photos in that burn area and everything. It's a remarkably sort of devastated but beautifully regrowing part of the course. And I was working my way down there to try to get some photos of Caleb before he got to Michigan Bluff, and I get told I'm not allowed on the trail. I'm like, that's an example of and it happened several times. Things like that happened several times. So there was a lot of new rules, a lot of new structure, and a ton of people. I mean, they were driving the tram, they were running the tram for people to make the escarpment more accessible in the morning, and that was, starting to look more like a Zagama level crowd up at the escarpment.
It was a lot of people.
It was a lot of people.
Deafeningly loud.
Yep, and it was 3 to 4 people deep, at the very top there. Assuming it's going to keep growing, it's on its way to like a level of a Zagama level of iconic crowd. So yeah, I mean, all that is to say, it's really cool. It's really cool to see all the people that are contributing to that growth, and like you mentioned, all the live stream cameras that are out there, all the media credentials that you see floating around. A lot of people putting the good word of Western States out into the world, and a lot of people are hearing it, and I think that's a really, really cool takeaway. The thing that makes me wonder is it looks nothing like, well, shouldn't say that, but it's a very different experience than Western States, even when I ran in 2013, and I'm sure the people that have been around the race for 20, 30, 40 plus years have just seen how it's almost a totally different experience. The size of Forest Hill, go on and on, but it makes me wonder, is there another Western States among us? Is there a race that's in its infancy right now that 5, 10, 20 years from now is going to be the pinnacle of the sport? And I don't know, is the Wasatch 100 going to be, what I mean? Or is there a race that doesn't exist yet that
I
maybe
think that's
someday?
the perfect parting thought. I love that.
Yeah.
And we're going to go, where are we going to dinner? Where are we eating?
Is it Burgers and Cream, right?
Burgers and Cream.
We're going to debate this at Burgers and Cream, and we will let you know at some point in the future on a future podcast episode where we landed.